enter the political process without limitations. I want to submit that the problem is not the money, but the influence it possesses. It is not the investment, but the way the returns are demanded. Just recently, we observed a election which many campaigns aligned themselves with billionaires to lease and in some cases buy elected offices. These associations, alignments, political partnerships were not made for the intention of the general public, not to serve all the people, but selected people and issues. It is unfortunate that some believe that we live in a country where we cannot share in the ideas and compromise for the greater solution of all, but that our society should be dominated by the ideas of those who possess the most wealth. Our democracy was not established for the rich, but was established to permit all to share and prosper in our country's destiny. Some believe that only their ideas, their values, their profit margins matter. And so they have decided to make an investment in elected offices for 2 years, or for 4 years, or 6 years, so that what matters to them rules the day. But today we stand here in Philadelphia and across this country claiming that we will not allow any individual, we will not allow any corporation, but that the will of the people be heard and accomplished within our democracy. I stand here days from what would have been the 84th birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His pursuit for justice and equality was intended to reach every hamlet and every village. I believe that if Dr. King were here, he would say financial influence doesn't bring about a happier democratic society, but the fair balance and value of the individual vote establishes a true democracy and society. If corporations have money, then where should it go? Let me offer a few suggestions. If you have a lot of money, corporations, I would ask you to help improve our public school districts. Instead of spending corporate dollars to produce attack ads to attack our president and his family. If you've got a lot of money, then I would say invest your money in more medical research to find the cure for cancer and AIDS, and not produce offshore accounts to dodge paying taxes. If you've got a lot of money, I've got a suggestion on where it should go. How about eradicating poverty? And not banking and backing candidates who want to tax the poor and find more tax breaks for the rich. If you have some money, I've got a suggestion for where it should go. How about increasing living wages for workers who work hard every single day in this country to make it and to make their families survive? Instead of spending the money on ridiculous CEO bonuses so that they can buy another jet or another vacation home where they only spend 2 days or even 2 weeks. I am not against prosperity, not against success, not against everyone being able to voice their opinion, but I am against drowning out the majority through the efforts of a small minority, which keeps disparity the norm and not equality. Corporations, if you have the money, then make the best investment possible in people, not in politics.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Masters, team leader for Public Citizen, and I decided that the weather today is appropriate because Citizens United casts a chill over democracy and we're feeling it today. So I want to talk to you about a few things. Why are we here? What are we going to do about it? And can we make a difference? So why are we here? Citizens United unleashed a flood of corporate money into our political system, and it ruled that corporations have a First Amendment right to spend unlimited amounts of money to promote or defeat candidates. It overturned 100 years of campaign finance law, and I'm going to talk about something that happened 100 years ago a little later. So what are we going to do about it? Well, Public Citizen has been organizing and brought together a coalition last spring to get a resolution passed in City Council. And we salute Councilwoman Quinones-Sanchez, who we're going to hear from in a second, who led the fight in City Council for that resolution. And she's going to be introducing she's going to be announcing a new initiative that we're very excited about that's going to take things to the next level in Philadelphia. Public Citizen is also working now on a statewide coalition to push a resolution in the state legislature. Already 11 states have sent Congress a clear message, their state legislatures, that they want a constitutional amendment. We want Pennsylvania to be the next state, and State Representative Cherelle Parker, whose representatives are here today, is going to be leading that fight in our state legislature. State Rep Mark Cohen is also going to be leading that with us, and we're so thrilled that they're both here and standing with us. So, can we make a difference? A lot of people look at the enormous amounts of money, corporate money in politics, and wonder what we can do ourselves to make a difference. So I want to tell you a story that I heard this summer when I was doing a bike ride across the country, and I went through Montana, and I met a state rep in Montana, and I had always heard that Montana was really on the forefront of fighting corporate money in politics, and I wanted to know what that was all about. So he told me this story. It was about 100 years ago. In 1899, there was a copper mining baron named William Clark, and he decided that it wasn't enough for him to be the richest guy in Montana and basically control the state. He wanted to be a U.S. senator. And back then, U.S. senators were not chosen by elections, they were chosen by state legislatures. So he one day gave $1,000 to every member of the Montana legislature, and overnight, all of their debts were paid. They had no mortgages. They were completely bought and paid for by William Clark. So you won't be surprised to hear that they then, shortly thereafter, selected him to be their U.S. senator. But when he went to Washington, the level of corruption that surrounded his selection was so bad that the U.S. Senate refused to seat him, which is fairly astounding. Although it does remind me of something that happened kind of recently in my home state of Illinois with Roland Burris, but it happens from time to time. So, based on that level of corruption in Montana, the citizens of Montana said they have to do something about it. They got a ballot. They got the power to do a ballot initiative, and then 77% of the Montana citizens passed a law called the Corrupt Practices Act that basically made it illegal for corporations to spend money in political campaigns. That law was just overturned by our Supreme Court a few months ago in applying the Citizens United decision. Not only did they pass that law, though, but then a movement happened, and they got the U.S. Senate, which for something like 34 years was refusing to pass a constitutional amendment for direct election of the senators. That movement took off after the corruption in Montana and other states, and in 1912, just about 100 years ago, we passed the 17th Amendment to our Constitution, and we kind of take it for granted that we elect our U.S. senators. It wasn't the way it was in the beginning, and it was only because people stood up to corporate money, to the corruption, and we made it happen then. That's why we're here today, because we're going to stand up and take back our democracy again. It's been 100 years since we had to do it last time, and we're going to do it again. I'm so glad that we're all uniting together. Thank you so much.
Hi everybody, it's Angela Lee with PennPIRG again. And the way PennPIRG is contributing to today's efforts around the country to overturn this terrible ruling is by releasing our latest report called $1 Billion Democracy. In our new report, $1 Billion Democracy, Demos and the PennPIRG Education Fund analyzed the Federal Elections Commission data to quantify what the vast majority of Americans already understand. Political power is concentrated in the hands of a wealthy and a shrinking few, which threatens our democracy and the promise of a government which should be of, by, and for the people. Our analysis found that our current post-Citizens United campaign environment distorts democracy and creates clear winners and losers. First and foremost, we found that our campaign environment favors special interests over the public interest. So super PACs accounted for the lion's share of spending in the 2012 elections, 61%. And these independent expenditure-only committees provide a convenient avenue for special interests to spend in the elections. A separate study we're also releasing today with the People for the American Way Foundation found that 95.24% of all outside spending in Pennsylvania's House and Senate races came from out of state. Having this huge amount of out-of-state money in any given election undermines the electoral power of Pennsylvania's voters. And the bottom line is that our current campaign system provides plenty of opportunities for special interests to spend in our elections. Additionally, we found that our campaign environment favors wealthy donors over small donors. The most obvious beneficiaries of our current system are large individual donors who are now able to funnel untold funds into our elections and to their favorite candidates. The super PACs again proved to be the most simple and efficient vehicle for these mega donors to contribute and aggregate their funds to attempt to sway the election. When individuals have the opportunity to spend millions of dollars in the elections, it minimizes the contributions of ordinary citizens and allows these large mega donors to directly translate their wealth into electoral power. And the starkest example of this outsized influence lays in the fact that it just took 32 mega donors to match every single dollar that small donors gave to both Mitt Romney and Barack Obama combined. And that's 32 mega donors matching 3.7 million small donors. Excuse me. And that's pretty awful, which is why we're here today. And another thing we found out about our post-Citizens United campaign environment is that the environment favors anonymous donors over a well-informed electorate and voters seeking accountability. Of the outside spending reported to the FEC, 31% came from secret spending, coming from organizations that are not required to disclose the sources of their original funds. We also found that 58% of all non-candidate, non-party television ads for the presidential campaign came from these dark money groups. And this secrecy insulates big spenders from accountability and denies voters the critical information that they need to make informed decisions and a holistic picture of just how distorted the system is. And there's one final loser in our current campaign environment, and that is faith in democracy. Recent polling has shown that there is a strong consensus among Americans across the political spectrum that there's too much corporate money in politics and that the system may allow special interests to buy elections. Democracy works best when the members of the general public believe that they're engaged in the common project of self-governance. And it suffers greatly when ordinary citizens doubt their own influence over the decisions that affect their own lives. The good news is that more than ever in our recent memory, Americans are voicing their outrage against this horrible problem in our democracy. Our report and PennPIRG makes several policy recommendations to reform our current campaign finance structure, like passing local resolutions in key cities like Harrisburg and Allentown. And we, of course, want to see Pennsylvania join 11 other states in the country to pass a statewide resolution calling for a constitutional amendment to overturn this terrible ruling that puts our democracy up for sale. Exactly. And what remains now is to push our leaders in Harrisburg and in Washington to take concrete action and finally build a small donor democracy that honors the principle of political equality and makes good on the promise of a government that should be of, by, and for the people. Thank you very much.
All right, now I'd like to call up City Councilwoman Maria Quinones-Sanchez.
Yeah. We're the people. We're the people. We're the people, not the corporations. Thanks all of you for coming together today, and we want to join the rest of the United States in saying all that money, all those billions, and we still won last year. That is evidence of what we are capable to do when we get together. We don't always have to agree on everything, but the direction that this country is going with the influence of this money is unnecessary. And I want to join the Reverend in saying, if these corporations appreciate their workers that every single day increase their bottom line, one thing that I would add to that is sick leave. So let's get a sick leave policy in this city, and let's protect our citizens in the city of Philadelphia. I am going to work very hard with all of the organizations today, all of my colleagues. I know Congressman Brady was part of this initiative in the spring, Representative Cohen, Representative Babette Joseph, who has more work to do now, and our Philly delegation head, Cherelle Parker, in ensuring that Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and the folks get an opportunity to tell the United States Congress that we need an amendment. We need to take this money, this dark money, outside of politics, and that we, the people, will make the decision. So I will be introducing that this January next week, and we will work towards this year for a ballot initiative. And I look forward to us going out and reminding people that we won. And we can win this too. So we are the people, we are the voices. Let's make sure that we shape the interest in this country. And our interest, as was outlined today, it is about poverty, it is about education. There's so many things that are much more important in this country than the amount of money 36 individuals can give. They may have the money, but we have the power. Let's exercise it, let's use it. Thank you very much.
I'd like to call up Hillary Emerson, representing State Representative Cherelle Parker.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming out on this chilly evening. My name is Hillary Emerson. I'm State Representative Cherelle Parker's Chief Legislative Aide. Representative Parker sends her greetings and her regrets that she couldn't be here today. This is a very important issue to her. It is so important to her that the people who are represented by the officials in state, local, federal government have a voice in the process. And the Citizens United ruling has really tried to suppress the voice in the process, and the rep is committed to putting forward a resolution, working with Public Citizen and other groups here to get a resolution passed in our state legislature that urges Congress to put an amendment out to the state saying that corporations are not human beings. Corporations don't have constitutional rights. They can't just contribute unlimited money to campaigns. The government is for the people, and by the people, as has been said, not by and for corporations. So, yes. So the representative will be working very hard on this resolution this coming session. She's going to be reaching out to colleagues both on her side of the aisle and across the aisle to push forward this resolution. This is an issue that affects everyone regardless of political party, and an issue that's important to every party. So Representative Parker wants to remind you that you are important in getting, not only electing our officials, but getting the resolution through. So make sure you contact your state representative, urge them to sign on, urge them to vote for the resolution, and also urge your Congress members to put forward the amendment to the U.S. Constitution to say that corporations are not human beings. They do not have constitutional rights. Thank you, and help us protect the integrity of our elections.
All right, now we're going to welcome former State Representative Babette Joseph, a true champion of the people. We are so happy that you are here.
Well, I'm happy to see this great crowd on this freezing day. So everybody, give yourselves a hand. Give yourselves a hand. And jump up and down. Jump, jump. Everybody's got to jump. That's how you stay warm. I know it's hard on the feet on this cement. Nah. I'm here to lend my voice to this momentous occasion, bad momentous occasion, a dark, bad momentous occasion, but something that I am very happy we're on the top of, and I'm very happy to see a very large crowd for this kind of weather, and very mixed, all different kinds of ages and all that. I mean, it's great. So I can't give an official welcome to the 182nd District, I suppose, anymore. So unofficially, welcome to the 182nd District. And let me tell you a story about a guy, I read this someplace, named Jonathan Friedman. He lives in California. He was driving in the carpool lane when he was pulled over because the police officer only saw one person in the car. He was pulled over and he was issued a summons or ticket or something for driving in the wrong lane. When the officer issued this summons, Mr. Friedman said, "But see this pile of papers in the passenger seat? It's a corporation." The California Motor Vehicles Code says corporations are people. I'm just doing what the code says. So now they've been in court and the judge predictably said this is nonsense. So now they're set to go forward and have this appealed. So we have friends everywhere. We have outraged citizens. We have people across the country. For every single one of us who's standing out here in the cold, there are dozens and dozens of folks who can be activated because they don't need to be persuaded, because they know they are the voters, and the voters count, and the votes count, and that's why we're here today. Thank you.
Let's welcome State Representative Mark Cohen.
Thank you, Steve. It's my honor to be here today. It's my honor to succeed Babette Josephs at her urging as the Democratic chair of the State Government Committee. It used, when the Constitution was written with the preamble, "We the people," which many people believe are the most important words of the Constitution. When that Constitution was written, there were very few corporations in this country. And forming a corporation was considered very, very controversial. And in Pennsylvania, in order to form a corporation, you needed a majority of the House and a majority of the Senate, and the governor had to sign a bill into law in order to form a corporation. And sometime in the late 1800s, they cut that out and just allowed anybody to form a corporation, which has a lot of rationality to it. But it was never intended that corporations were people. When the Constitution was written, it was never intended that all that's a legal doctrine that sprang up after the Civil War, and it's a doctrine that has done enormous harm to America. And it's a doctrine that we got to keep fighting. I'm going to be supporting on the State Government Committee the resolution to overturn the Citizens United decision. I'm going to be urging us to do everything we can to pass it. My counterpart on the committee will predictably not be in support of it, for representing the Republican side. The Republican Party predictably will not be in support of it, and technically it may die in committee. But we're not going to let it die. The resolution is about, the whole purpose is to gain public knowledge and public support and to influence Congress. And I pledge to you that I and the other members of the Democratic State Government Committee and many Democrats in the State House of Representatives and in the Senate are going to do everything we can to keep this issue alive for as many years as it takes before Congress realizes what what a terrible thing the Supreme Court has done and overturns by constitutional amendment the Citizens United decision.
Now that's all welcome. Carol Rubley from Common Cause.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Carol Rubley, a Common Cause PA board member, and I'm also a former state representative from the Chester County, Montgomery County area, where I served for 16 years, representing the Republican Party. Today, we rally to fight for democracy's future. We stand on sacred ground here in Philadelphia, where just a few blocks away, our forebears gave birth to a modern democracy. This is without a doubt America's greatest gift to the world, a constitutional democracy built on laws that are of, by, and for the people. Today, however, that legacy is in peril. Our founders built a system with careful considered checks and balances, a system that they knew would have to withstand abuses of power, and it has. Since the beginning of our republic, there have been powerful forces that have attempted to abuse the system for self-serving purposes at the cost of regular citizens. As our system evolved, it became apparent that a critical challenge would be keeping the extraordinary powers of corporations in check. And from time to time, we Americans have had to push back to protect our system. In the 1870s, Pennsylvania and many other states revised their constitutions to protect our government and from robber barons. In the early 1900s, Teddy Roosevelt and the Progressives led the charge to protect our elections and government from the abuses of corporate political money. And many of these reforms remain intact. They have for a century. But 3 years ago, very few people saw the giant iceberg of Citizens United looming on the horizon. The titanic gash sliced into our democracy by Citizens United is flooding our elections with a deluge of campaign cash, and it is gushing in at a rate that threatens to capsize the integrity of our representative government. But we don't have to stand by and let this happen. Like our forebears, we can stand up and fight for change. So today, we call upon Congress to begin the work necessary to pass a constitutional amendment restoring the balance of power in our elections and government, an amendment that undoes the damage of Citizens United and specifies that constitutional rights are reserved for we the people, not corporations. We also urge Congress to take immediate remedial action to require full and timely disclosure of all political expenditures by any entity that is not a natural person. Also, require corporations to get permission from stockholders, the actual owners of the company, before making political expenditures, and to immediately and publicly disclose such expenditures. And to require nonprofit corporations to disclose all donors if they make political expenditures. And here in Pennsylvania, we call upon our state legislature to immediately pass legislation limiting all campaign contributions to candidates, as has been done in 39 other states. Also, in Pennsylvania, require timely disclosure of all contributions, even in non-election years, and require corporations to disclose all political expenditures in state elections and get shareholders' approval before making them. We can do this. We are up to the challenge. Let's demonstrate that regardless of our political persuasion, that we have the will and strength of purpose that our forebears did when our system came under attack. Let's move forth boldly and aggressively overturn Citizens United. Thank you very much.
Let me have the next group of speakers come up here if they're not already up here. Alex Shepard, Hugh Taft-Morales, Mark is up here, Gwen, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Gwen Snyder. Eleanor Roosevelt, that's a pretty amazing thing, huh? We really can we can go back in history a lot. All right, so our next speaker is going to be the inveterate activist Alex Shepard, who meets every week to move this issue forward.
Thank you. My name is Alex Shepard, and I'm a root striker. I'm a part of a grassroots organization called Rootstrikers, which was created by Arthur Lawrence Lessig in order to educate people beyond his book, Republic Lost: How Money Corrupts Congress and a Plan to Stop It. The name Rootstrikers comes from a quote by Henry David Thoreau: "There are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil for every one striking at the root." And that's what we do. We are striking at the root cause of many of the problems facing America today. Once you look at problems through the prism of getting money out of politics, you begin to see the corrupting influence of money as a tool of the opposition to many of the causes we believe in, as well as those that are spoken by people here today. Because while our causes and political beliefs are different, we all share a common enemy: the corrupting influence of money over our government. Politicians everywhere are dependent on money for re-election. We cannot downplay this influence. This dependency takes over their lives like a drug addiction. And in fact, that's exactly what politicians have become: addicts. They're addicted to money. And like many trapped by addiction, they spend most of their day trying to get their fix. Members of Congress spend an average of 5 hours a day conducting some kind of fundraising activity, leaving very little time for governing. Like addicts, they care only about their dealers and their suppliers. While no legislation is passed to create jobs, create a clean and sustainable environment, financial regulation, or a simple tax system, Congress has worked hard and fast on Wall Street bailouts, copyright laws that protect companies and yet make criminals out of teenagers, the NDAA, and the list goes on. Like most people who have to deal with someone with an addiction, trust is broken. We no longer trust Congress. We no longer trust them to do their job. Congress's approval rating is less than 10% across the board. The last thing that an addict's loved ones can do is confront the problem of addiction with their family member. And that's what Americans need to do. We need to give politicians an intervention. Those who love this country have to send our politicians intervention letters telling them how much their addiction to money is hurting us. We need to pressure our representatives to go to rehab. It's time to go to rehab. It's time for them to get clean. And unfortunately, they can't do it on their own. They're trapped in a government system that now revolves around fundraising and not governing for a better future. So we need to contact our representatives. We need to talk with our friends, our family, neighbors, and strangers about how we need to support an amendment to stem the unlimited election buying power of super PACs, as well as legislation like the American Anti-Corruption Act and the Grassroots Democracy Act. We need to use our voting power to send a signal to our elected officials that this is the first problem that needs solving. Philly Rootstrikers are working with others to build a money out of politics voter bloc, to send a message to those running for office. We want you to take a public stand against the corrupting influence of money and do whatever it takes to make our government beholden to the people and the people alone. If you'd like to join the voter bloc, there's a sign-up sheet at the table. Please join us. You're basically providing information so we can contact you before an election to let you know which politicians have come out in support of getting money out of politics and overturning the Citizens United decision. Rootstrikers believe we need to stem unlimited independent expenditures that were allowed by the Citizens United versus FEC decision. But we also know that money was corrupting our government before the Citizens United decision and will after its amendment is passed. So, we need to focus on direct contributions to political campaigns as well as super PAC spending. This will not be an easy task. In fact, it's going to be a struggle the entire way. But we can do it. We can. People have fought for their right to have a voice before, and we can do it again. All we need is a resolve to fighting for what is right, for the principles this country was founded on. We need the kind of commitment displayed by all of us here. I would like to thank those who have come out today to speak, and those of you who have come out to support this event. We need more people committed to getting money out of politics so government can focus on creating positive change in our communities and in our country. Please join me. Become a Rootstriker. Go to rootstrikers.org. Visit Philly Rootstrikers on Facebook. Or attend one of our Wednesday meetings at 7 p.m. at the Friends Center at 1501 Cherry Street. I hope to see you there so we can begin to regain our voice again. Thank you.
It's cold, huh? We have some coffee over there. Probably not enough for everybody, but for people who want it, there's a big thing of Dunkin' Donuts coffee. All right, next speaker from the Philadelphia Ethical Humanist Society, Hugh Taft Morales.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for having this work. I want to give a hand for the people holding the signs behind us here. It's not easy work. If you haven't gotten a chance, please offer them a break. I'll make this brief. My name is Hugh Taft Morales. I'm the leader of a group down at 1906 Rittenhouse Square called the Ethical Humanist Society of Philadelphia. Since 1885, the Ethical Society has been giving humanist inspiration to people trying to build social justice and make the world a little bit more humane. I want to read to you a part of a speech by a Mrs. Mary Elizabeth Lease from Ridgeway, Pennsylvania. This is what she says. Wall Street owns this country. It is no longer a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but a government of Wall Street, by Wall Street, and for Wall Street. The great common people of this country are slaves, and monopoly is the master. Our laws are the output of a system which clothes rascals in robes and honesty in rags. The people are at bay. Let the bloodhounds of money who dogged us thus far beware. Sound familiar? Mary Lease, a populist activist, gave that speech 100 years ago. We're giving it today. Are we going to give it another 100 years? Do we have to wait 100 more years for change to come? No! I can handle it. I live a comfortable life. But today, in the richest nation of the planet, billions of dollars are spent in corporate bailouts to save the careers and the reputations of the very rich, but 50 million men, women, and children live under the poverty line. In this land of promise, CEOs earn 400 times more than their employees earn. The richest 1% owns 33% of this country's wealth. But we slash funds for schools and social services. We allow for corporate tax dodging and loopholes, but somehow right here in Philadelphia we can't afford $205 a month in general assistance for the most marginalized neighbors and friends. That is a moral obscenity. Why are we there? We are there because of power, political power, most specifically the political power of money. Corporate influence in Washington has dominated our history for centuries. Now, given the Supreme Court decision in Citizens United, the congressional office doors are open for business. Lobbyists are swarming the halls of the Senate and the House. $10 billion the corporation spent on last year's elections were down payment for business as usual. Some argue that the ruling in Citizens United is a defense of free speech. But that's not the case. The game is rigged today. There's no free speech. You got to pay to play. They tell us corporations are persons. Well, that's an odd sort of person. It's a person without a moral conscience, addicted to greed. These are corporate characters, more like ethical zombies serving the interests of the 1%. We know that systemic justice is here all around us. Today, the Ethical Humanist Society stands with Philly Rootstrikers, Common Cause, PennPIRG, Public Citizen, and other groups demanding justice. But most of all, we stand with the marginalized people of this country, in a country that cares more about profits than people. Get money out of politics now. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from Mark from Wolfpack.
Hi there. My name is Mark Danger, and I'm actually a centrist who has never been politically active in really anything. Last year I worked with several other people and groups in the state of New Jersey to get passage of a state resolution calling on Congress to amend the Constitution to reject Citizens United decision and to reject corporate personhood. Why did I do that? The issue for me is not left or right. On the left, money in politics tends to work against sensible regulation and work against the common interest. On the right, it tends to make laws more complicated, government bigger, and the whole system more corrupt. Why would anyone think that money in politics is working the way we expect democracy to work? It's not. I just wanted to bring up my accomplishments over in New Jersey, along with all the many other people that work there, and to say that it can be done in Pennsylvania, and that we did it by banding together the many organizations that I've represented here today. PennPIRG, for example, has been very instrumental in New Jersey. Public Citizen. I happen to be a Rootstriker as well. I also joined in 2011 a group called Wolfpack. Wolfpack was the reason that I got active and started believing that we could change this thing. Some of you may have heard about Wolfpack, which was started by Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. Wolfpack supports all groups fighting to get money out of politics and hopes to work with as many of them and you as possible. Wolfpack believes that our best hope for fixing this democracy is better put into the hands of state legislators via constitutional convention rather than our incredibly corrupt Congress, which currently has an approval rating lower than telemarketers. We also believe that our resolution works very well as an insurance plan to any bill proposed asking Congress to fix this problem, which is why we are currently working with Move to Amend in Texas to get both of our bills passed. The 17th Amendment, mentioned here earlier, is our model for victory. Around the turn of the 19th century, the people were demanding direct elections of senators, and Congress refused to act. States began calling for a convention for this purpose, and when they became one state shy of forcing a convention, Congress decided, yes, maybe it's time to pass an amendment. So they did. We believe this is the best way to put real pressure on an incredibly inept Congress to act. Thank you for your time. To learn more, go to wolfpack.com. That's WOLF-PAC.com. Thank you.
All right, now from the pages of history, we welcome Eleanor Roosevelt.
Did you? Yeah. Mind if I speak this? No, not at all.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Fellow citizens, my name is Eleanor Roosevelt, and I am here today to say American democracy is not for sale. Upon the occasion of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt took to the airwaves to say, December 7th, a date that will live in infamy. Were he here today, I'm sure that he would say, another date that shall live in infamy is the day that special interest decided they could buy America. I am often asked if things would be different if there were more women in government. I think that today's complex problems require the best effort of both sexes. So in answer to that direct question, I will simply say, I do not know if it would be better, but it wouldn't be any worse. For the 12 years I lived in the White House, I looked forward to the very last thing I would see each night before I went to sleep. And that was the friendly little red light twinkling atop the Washington Monument. That structure so tall and strong reminded me of how we remained steadfast through Valley Forge. We must now become all that that monument represents. We must become a strong democracy, truth, equal opportunity, fairness, and a government which is not for sale. God bless you all, and God bless these United States of America. Thank you.
From the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign and from many, many other organizations, Sherry Honkla.
But I'd also like to add to my credentials. I'm the former, oh, my phone is ringing. I'm the former vice presidential candidate on the Green Party. And proud to say, the only politician that I've met here recently that has not taken $1 from any single corporation. So a lot of folks ask me, you know, what did you learn about politics while running for office? Well, the very first day, I learned a lot about corruption. And all of a sudden, all of my conversations that I had with people were about nothing other than money. Radio stations promising that they'll air only me if we give them money. Newspapers promising to print stuff if we give them money. And as Jill and I ran for president and vice president, we had to collect 40,000 signatures. The Democrats had to collect 2,000 signatures in Pennsylvania. The Republicans had to collect 2,000 signatures. And us, with our very little money, had to figure out how to collect 40,000 signatures just to get on the ballot in the state of Pennsylvania. Well, then you triple that towards every other state across the entire country. And we figured since we were on 85% of the ballots in this country, perhaps we would be allowed to be a part of the presidential debates. Hell no. Instead, I was incarcerated with Dr. Jill Stein. We were handcuffed sideways to a metal chair for 9 hours. And I'm proud to tell you today, even though we weren't allowed into the presidential debates that are controlled by the CPD, which is made up of nothing but corporations, Jill Stein and I are suing. And we intend to challenge that. Each and every day of my life, I will continue to challenge this issue that morals and values are dead in this country and that we can't take this country back from corporations. I model it in my life. I encourage you to ensure that your elected officials model it as well. Let's take back our country. Let's get money out of politics because it's possible. Thank you.
Jobs with Justice leader Gwen Snyder.
Wow, this is a dedicated crowd. You guys are still here. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but we're a dedicated crowd because we are sick of living in a Citizens United world. We live not just in a Citizens United world and country, but in a Citizens United city. We live in a city where even though 77% of Philadelphians believe in paid sick days, even though the majority of City Council believes in paid sick days, our mayor, after talking to Comcast, goes to the City Chamber of Commerce to veto paid sick days. We live in a city where we're closing down 39 of our schools in some of our poorest neighborhoods, and at the same time Comcast is sitting on land for free. We are living in a city
that treats corporations a hell of a lot better than people. It's time to live in a city where if you can't love, if you can't laugh, if you can't cry, you aren't treated as a person, you aren't given those privileges, and you are expected to contribute your fair share. So, thank you so much for having me, thank you for listening, and I hope you guys get warm soon.
Philadelphia Move On Council brings us Rosina Miller.
Thanks, everybody. I am here representing Philadelphia Move On Council. The organization Move On itself, the national organization, was founded precisely to counter the big money in politics that we are here to protest today. Move On's mission is to give regular Americans a voice in a political process that is currently dominated by big money and armies of lobbyists. Here in Philadelphia, our local Move On Council recently adopted a mission to energize and engage a broad base of Philadelphians in supporting local and national policies that build a more equitable, peaceful, and environmentally healthy world. A major part of our vision is strengthening our democracy. However, the dream of government of the people, by the people, and for the people, the phrase we've heard so often today, is seriously jeopardized by the increasing inequality of wealth and power. And thanks to the Supreme Court's Citizens United ruling 3 years ago, which opened the door to unrestricted spending by corporations and other interest groups to influence elections, that inequality exponentially increased as money came to exert an even more powerful influence over the political process. So we are here today to stand up, to say again, and to say loudly, get